The vast ship of Admiral Krell hung in Earth's orbit like a metallic cloud. The Vossen Admiral stood on the command deck, his blue-scaled skin reflecting the glow of monitors around him. This was supposed to be a simple mission: establish contact with the primitive humans and bring them into the fold of the Galactic Empire. "Primitive weapons detected, Admiral," reported Officer Mick. "Their satellites are tracking us." Krell waved a dismissive hand. "Expected. All primitive species react with fear at first." Open communications. On Earth, Commander James Reed of the Earth Defense Force stared at the massive alien ship on his screen. His weathered face showed no emotion, but his knuckles were white as he gripped the edge of the command table. "Sir, they're broadcasting some kind of message," said Lieutenant Wilson. "Universal Translator is working on it." Reed nodded. "Keep all weapons locked, but do not fire. I want every satellite we have gathering data on that ship." The message from the Vossen ship came through clearly. "People of Earth, we represent the Galactic Empire, rulers of 500 star systems. Your planet is now within our protective territory. Prepare for integration." Reed's eyes narrowed. "That's not a greeting. That's a declaration." In space, Admiral Krell waited for the humans to respond with the expected gratitude and submission. Every other species had quickly recognized the benefits of Imperial protection. When minutes passed with no response, he grew irritated. "Send down a scout ship to their largest government building," he ordered. "Show them our technological superiority." The sleek Imperial scout ship descended through Earth's atmosphere, heading directly for the United Nations building in New York. Fighter jets scrambled to intercept. "The primitive crafts are approaching our scout," reported Officer Mick. "They appear to be warning us away." Krell snorted. "Disable one of their flying machines. Show them the futility of resistance." The scout ship fired a warning shot that clipped the wing of an F-35. But instead of retreating, the remaining fighters opened fire. To the shock of the Imperial crew, the Earth weapons actually damaged the scout ship's outer hull. "Impossible," shouted Krell. "Their technology is centuries behind ours." The scout ship managed to return to the mothership, but its hull was smoking and damaged. The crew reported that humans had used surprisingly effective targeting systems and adaptable tactics. In the emergency meeting of the Vossen High Council, Admiral Krell stood before Emperor Vex and the military command. "These humans are unlike other species we have encountered," Krell explained. "They attacked our scout ship without provocation." High Counselor Jarv leaned forward. "Perhaps we misunderstood their response. Did we follow first contact protocols?" "We followed standard procedure," insisted Krell. "But these humans are aggressive and unpredictable. They must be brought under control before they become a true threat." Emperor Vex, his scales a deep purple of concern, made his decision. "Prepare a proper military force. If these humans wish to resist Imperial protection, they will learn why no species challenges the Empire twice." Back on Earth, Commander Reed reviewed the footage of the alien scout ship. His scientists had already begun analyzing the recovered debris. "Their technology is advanced," said Dr. Miller, "but not incomprehensible. Their shield frequencies, weapon systems, we can study these." Reed nodded grimly. "They'll be back, and next time it won't be a single scout. Alert all Earth defense stations. We're at war with an enemy we know nothing about." As night fell over the command center, Reed stared at the stars. For the first time in human history, the threat from above was real. But the Galactic Empire had made a critical mistake. They had judged humanity by its technology, not by its will to survive. "They think we're primitive," Reed said to the empty room. "Let them." 3 weeks after first contact, the sky above Earth lit up with the arrival of the Imperial invasion fleet. 20 massive warships took position around the planet, their hulls gleaming in the sunlight. "Begin the first wave," ordered High Admiral Dorn from the flagship. "Target their military installations and government centers. Show them the cost of defiance." Imperial dropships descended through the atmosphere, each carrying hundreds of soldiers in powered armor. The Vossans expected a swift victory, perhaps 3 days at most to secure the major population centers. They were wrong. Colonel Lisa Morgan crouched in the ruins of what had once been downtown Atlanta. Her face was smeared with dirt and blood, but her eyes burned with fierce determination. Team 1, status, she whispered into her comm unit. In position, Colonel, came the reply. Imperial patrol approaching checkpoint Alpha. Morgan nodded to her second-in-command. Let's show these aliens how humans fight on home ground. The Imperial patrol moved confidently down the street, their weapons held loosely. They had faced little resistance in this sector and believed the area secured. The first explosion took out the lead soldier. Before the others could react, gunfire erupted from 3 different positions. The Imperial soldiers found their advanced armor penetrated by simple armor-piercing rounds that humans had modified after studying the captured scout ship. Ambush, shouted the Imperial squad leader, but it was too late. Within moments, the entire patrol was eliminated. Morgan moved quickly with her team to collect the alien weapons. 5 minutes, then we're ghost. Next target is their command post at the old stadium. Across the globe, similar scenes played out. Imperial forces discovered that taking ground was one thing. Holding it against human guerrilla tactics was another entirely. On the Imperial flagship, High Admiral Dorn received increasingly disturbing reports. Sir, our forces in Sector 7 have lost contact, reported his aide, and the human resistance has somehow disabled our communications array in Sector 4. Dorn's scales darkened with rage. How are these primitives doing this? They were supposed to surrender after the first bombardment. His tactical officer looked uncomfortable. Sir, they're adapting to our technology at an unprecedented rate. They've already developed countermeasures against our standard targeting systems. In a secret facility beneath the Rocky Mountains, Dr. Marcus Wells worked frantically with a team of engineers. Surrounding them were pieces of salvaged Imperial technology. The power coupling interfaces with this component here, Wells explained, connecting 2 seemingly incompatible parts. Their shield technology operates on principles similar to our experimental electromagnetic fields, just far more advanced. The Earth Defense Force commander looked on with hope. How soon until we can retrofit our own vehicles? 48 hours for the first prototypes, Wells replied. The good news is their tech isn't magical. It's just science we haven't mastered yet. But we're learning fast. By the end of the first month, the Imperial invasion had stalled. What was supposed to be a swift conquest had turned into a grinding battle of attrition. In orbit, High Admiral Dorn faced the reality of their situation during a secure communication with Emperor Vex. These humans, Dorn explained, they fight differently than any species we've encountered. They don't surrender when we take their capitals. They hide, adapt, and strike back harder. You're saying we underestimated them? The Emperor asked coldly. Gravely, Your Eminence, our intelligence suggests they evolved on a death world, one with extreme predators, natural disasters, and constant tribal warfare. They'd been fighting for survival since before they could write. Emperor Vex considered this information. Then we must crush them completely. Prepare the main fleet. We will not be humiliated by primitives. As the transmission ended, Dorn looked out at the blue planet below. For the first time in his military career, he felt something unfamiliar: doubt. Meanwhile, on Earth, humanity prepared for the next wave, their determination only hardened by the first taste of interstellar war. The captured Imperial cruiser sat in the massive underground hangar at Cheyenne Mountain. Scientists and engineers swarmed around it like ants, taking measurements and extracting components for study. Dr. Marcus Wells hadn't slept in 3 days, but his eyes were bright with excitement as he addressed the military council. We've cracked their propulsion system, he announced, projecting a holographic diagram, and we've successfully adapted their shield technology to our vessels. General Thomas Harding leaned forward, his weathered face grave. How long until we can outfit our ships? 2 weeks for the first squadron, Wells replied. We've streamlined the process and our factories are already producing the components. Commander Reed, now promoted to oversee Earth's unified defense, nodded. Then it's time to take this fight to them. The room fell silent. No one had dared speak of counterattack before. Survival had been the only goal. "You're proposing we leave Earth defenseless?" asked a Chinese general. Reed shook his head. "Not defenseless. But our best chance isn't hiding behind our planet waiting for them to gather their full strength. Intelligence shows they're building a staging area in the Jupiter orbit. We hit them there, where they don't expect us." High above Earth, on the Imperial flagship, High Admiral Dorn received troubling news. "The humans have gone silent," Admiral reported his intelligence officer. "Our scouts detect minimal activity in their major cities." Dorn's scales rippled with concern. A trap? Or have they finally accepted defeat? "Unknown, sir. But our staging base at Jupiter reports unusual energy readings near Mars." Before Dorn could request more information, alarms blared across the bridge. "Unidentified vessels approaching at high speed. They've bypassed our outer sensor network." Dorn stared in disbelief at the tactical display. 20 Earth ships, retrofitted with Imperial technology, emerged from behind Mars' shadow. They moved with precision that shouldn't have been possible for human pilots operating alien technology. "Impossible," he whispered. "They couldn't have mastered our systems so quickly." The first barrage from the Earth vessels struck with devastating accuracy. 3 Imperial support ships erupted in flames before they could raise shields. In the lead Earth vessel, Commander Reed watched the battle unfold. "Continue advance. Target their communication arrays and weapon systems." His tactical officer nodded. "Sir, Imperial reinforcements approaching from Jupiter." As expected, Reed replied calmly. "Deploy Squadrons 2 and 3. On the other side of Jupiter, 40 smaller Earth fighters appeared, targeting the Imperial staging area. They carried nuclear warheads modified with Imperial detonation technology, a combination that Imperial shields weren't calibrated to stop. The staging area erupted in a series of blinding explosions. Supply ships, fuel depots, and half-built warships disintegrated in the attack. On his flagship, now taking heavy damage, Admiral Dorn watched in horror. "Fall back. All ships retreat to safe distance." "Sir," his second-in-command protested, "retreating before humans would be survival." Dorn snapped. "These aren't the primitives we thought they were. Send word to the Empire. We need the main fleet." As Imperial ships jumped to faster-than-light travel, Earth vessels pursued, capturing 2 damaged cruisers before they could escape. Back on Earth, in the war room, leaders watched the live feed from the battle with stunned silence. "We did it," someone whispered. "We actually drove them back." Dr. Wells shook his head. "They'll return with more ships. This was just their expeditionary force." Reed nodded grimly. "Which is why we need to understand why they're so afraid of us. Our intelligence team has been analyzing their communications. They keep referring to Earth as a death world, and humans as survival-evolved predators." He pulled up images of the Vossen homeworld, a paradise-like planet with mild weather and few natural threats. "They evolved in peace," Reed explained. "We evolved fighting for every inch of ground, against nature, beasts, and each other. They've never encountered a species like us." "So what's our next move?" asked General Harding. Reed's eyes hardened. "We take the fight to their core systems. Show them that attacking Earth was the worst mistake in their empire's history." The news of human victory spread through the empire like wildfire. On Trellis Prime, a world that had been under Imperial control for 3 centuries, the local governor watched the classified battle footage with growing interest. "They defeated an Imperial battle group?" asked Governor Nex, his feathered crest rising in surprise. His aide, a fellow Trellin, nodded. "The humans adapted Imperial technology and launched a counterattack. The Empire is mobilizing its main fleet in response." Governor Nex turned to the window, gazing at the Imperial garrison that had oppressed his people for generations. "Perhaps it's time we reached out to these humans." Across the galaxy, similar conversations took place on planets ruled by the Empire. Species that had been conquered now saw a glimmer of hope in human resistance. On Earth, Commander Reed stood before the United Earth Council, explaining his bold new strategy. We've received communications from two subjugated worlds, the Trellans and the Makari. Both wish to coordinate resistance efforts with Earth. The Council members exchanged glances. Council President Alvarez leaned forward. You're proposing an alliance with aliens while we're fighting aliens. Reed nodded. The Empire isn't a single species. It's dominated by the Vosans who conquered hundreds of worlds. Many of these species hate their rulers and have been waiting for a chance to rebel. He activated a holographic display showing a spiral galaxy with highlighted systems. With allies, we create multiple fronts. The Empire must divide its forces. After heated debate, the Council approved Reed's plan. Within weeks, Earth vessels equipped with newly developed faster-than-light drives reached Trellan and Makari space, bringing weapons and tactical advisors. On the Trellan homeworld, Colonel Lisa Morgan met with resistance leaders in an underground bunker. The bird-like Trellans towered over her, but treated her with profound respect. "Your tactics against the Imperial patrols," said Commander Kree. The Trellan resistance leader. "They are unlike anything we tried. You target supply lines instead of fortresses." Morgan nodded. "Imperial forces are overly dependent on their technology and supply chains. Cut those, and their advantage disappears. Our people have fought small rebellions for 300 years, Kree admitted. Always crushed, but your humans fight differently. We evolved as persistence hunters, Morgan explained. When we set our minds on a goal, we don't stop. Now let's talk about your orbital defense grid. On the Imperial throne world, Emperor Vex faced growing dissent within his own government. The humans have made contact with rebel elements on 7 Imperial worlds, shouted War Minister Torm. Our forces are stretched too thin. Vex slammed his clawed hand on the throne. Then crush these humans with everything we have. They are the head of this rebellion. Cut it off, and the body dies. Admiral Krell, demoted after the first contact disaster, spoke up. Your Eminence, I've studied these humans. Conventional tactics won't work. They thrive under pressure. Then what do you suggest? Vex demanded. We must understand them better before we can defeat them, Krell replied. They're calling their alliance the Free Worlds Coalition. It's spreading faster than we can contain it. Back on Earth, Commander Reed addressed the first meeting of the coalition leadership through holographic projections. Representatives from 12 species gathered virtually. Together, we can end Imperial tyranny, Reed declared. Each of your species brings unique strengths to this fight. The Makari have mining expertise to help us access resources. The Trellans know Imperial communication protocols. The Dorn have stealth technology. A Makari representative, her crystalline body shimmering, spoke. Why should you humans leave this coalition? Your world was unknown until recently. Reed smiled. We don't seek to replace one empire with another. We propose a coalition where all members have equal voice. He activated a display showing coordinated attacks across 20 systems. We've already begun. Operation Daybreak is underway. Simultaneous strikes against Imperial supply depots in each of your systems. As the meeting concluded, reports flooded in of successful attacks. The Free Worlds Coalition had made its first unified stand against the Empire. On his throne, Emperor Vex received the news with cold fury. For the first time in 1,000 years, the Galactic Empire faced an enemy it could not easily crush, and the humans were at the center of it all. General Alex Turner stood on the bridge of the Earth warship Defiance, watching as his fleet prepared to jump to faster-than-light speed. 6 months of war had transformed human military technology beyond recognition. The ship around him was a hybrid of Earth engineering and reverse-engineered Imperial tech. Jump drives charged, General, reported his navigation officer. All ships report ready. Turner nodded, his face grim. Execute Operation Horizon. The fleet vanished in flashes of light, using a new FTL method developed by Dr. Wells. Unlike Imperial jump technology, which followed established lanes, human drives could create new pathways through space. It was less efficient, but infinitely more unpredictable. In the Imperial capital system, a sensor operator stared at his screen in confusion. "Sir, I'm detecting energy signatures, but they're inside our defense perimeter." The Imperial Home Fleet commander rushed to the screen. "Impossible. No ship can jump past the outer markers." But the evidence was clear. 48 human warships materialized just beyond the orbit of the capital world's moon. They had bypassed the Empire's entire defense network. The human fleet launched its attack before the Imperial ships could organize. Earth vessels targeted communication arrays and defensive platforms first, throwing the Imperial defense into chaos. On Vos Prime, Emperor Vex was rushed to a secure bunker as air raid sirens wailed across the capital city. Never in the 2,000-year history of the Empire had enemy ships reached the homeworld. "How did they get past our defenses?" Vex demanded. High Admiral Dorn looked shaken. "They've developed a new jump drive technology. Our scientists believed it theoretically impossible. The humans have been full of impossibilities." Vex hissed. "What are they targeting?" "That's the strange part, Your Eminence. They're avoiding population centers. They're striking military installations, government buildings, and Imperial Academy facilities." From his ship, General Turner directed precise strikes against the Empire's command structure. "Maintain Protocol Alpha. No civilian targets. We want to break their military, not their people." His second-in-command nodded. "The Macquarie infiltration teams have secured their central communications hub. We're broadcasting now." Across the capital, and to every world in the Empire, the human message played. "People of the Galactic Empire, we are not here to conquer. We are here to end the tyranny of Emperor Vex. Join the Free Worlds Coalition and help us build a galaxy where all species are equal." The psychological impact was devastating. Imperial citizens had been told humans were primitive savages, yet these savages had reached the heart of the Empire and were showing restraint. In the Imperial Palace, a group of ministers gathered in secret. "The outer systems are declaring independence," said Minister Jax. 37 worlds announced their allegiance to the coalition in the last hour. "The Empire is crumbling," agreed another, "and the Emperor refuses to negotiate." "Then perhaps we need leadership that will," suggested Minister Jax, her scales darkening with determined purpose. On the Defiance, General Turner received unexpected communication from the planet. "Sir, we're getting a transmission from a group identifying as the Imperial Reconciliation Committee. They're requesting terms for Emperor Vex's surrender." Turner raised an eyebrow. "Seems we've triggered a palace coup." He opened the channel. "This is General Turner of Earth Defense Force. We will discuss terms only with a government that recognizes the autonomy of all coalition worlds." The military campaign that Imperial strategists had predicted would take years to reach the core systems had arrived at their doorstep in 6 months. As Turner looked at the Imperial capital through his viewport, he reflected on how quickly everything had changed. "They thought distance would protect them," he said quietly. "They never understood that humans specialize in closing distances." As Imperial ships began powering down weapons in submission, Turner sent a message to Earth. "Operation Horizon successful. The Imperial heart is exposed. Awaiting further instructions." The Battle of Centauri Edge marked the turning point. 300 Imperial warships faced off against the combined coalition fleet of just 80 vessels. By all logical measures, the Empire should have won. Instead, they suffered a crushing defeat. Commander Reed stood aboard the coalition flagship Horizon, surveying the aftermath. The emptiness of space was littered with the broken husks of Imperial vessels. "Casualties?" he asked his tactical officer. "Minimal, sir. 17 coalition ships damaged, 3 destroyed. Imperial losses at nearly 80%. Reed nodded solemnly. "Prepare the broadcast. All channels, all frequencies, translated into every Imperial language. The communication officer worked quickly. "Ready when you are, Commander." Reed stepped before the camera, his face stern but not triumphant. The image of this human would soon be seen on every world still under Imperial control. "People of the Galactic Empire," he began. "Today at Centauri Edge, your fleet was defeated, not through superior numbers, but through the determination of free people fighting for their right to exist." He paused, letting the words sink in. "We did not start this war. When your ships came to Earth, we offered peace. Your Emperor chose conflict instead. Now you have seen the consequence of that choice." Reed's eyes hardened as he delivered the message that would echo across the galaxy. "This is humanity's warning to the Empire. We didn't start this war, but we will finish it. Surrender or run." The broadcast ended, leaving a stunned silence across thousands of worlds. On the Imperial capital, panic spread through the upper ranks. In a secure military bunker, Admiral Tosh met with his senior staff. "The human message has triggered mass desertion," reported his intelligence officer. "3 fleet commanders have declared for the coalition. 7 more have gone silent." Admiral Tosh removed his ceremonial helmet, a gesture of grave significance in Vossen culture. "My family has served the Empire for 12 generations. I never thought I would see its fall." "Sir," asked a young officer, "are we really going to surrender to primitives?" Tosh looked at him sharply. "They are not primitives. That lie is what brought us here. The humans adapted our technology in months, developed innovations our scientists thought impossible, and formed an alliance that turned our subjects against us." He stood straighter. "I will not sacrifice more Vossen lives in a lost cause. Prepare my shuttle. I will meet with the human commander myself." In the Imperial Palace, Emperor Vex faced open rebellion. Ministers who once trembled before him now stood defiant. "The military has abandoned you," stated Minister Jax. "The outer systems are gone. Even the core worlds demand negotiation." Vex hissed in fury. "Traitors, all of you. The Empire has stood for 2,000 years, and it has grown corrupt," Jax replied. "The humans have shown us another way. The Coalition offers membership to all worlds, even Voss. You would kneel before humans." Vex spat. "No," Jax answered calmly. "We would stand beside them as equals. That is something you never understood, Vex. True strength comes from cooperation, not domination." Guards entered the chamber, no longer wearing Imperial insignia, but the new emblem of the Vossen Provisional Government. As word spread that Emperor Vex had been deposed, Coalition forces reported a remarkable development. Imperial worlds were surrendering without a fight. Military bases lowered their shields. Governors contacted the Coalition offering immediate cooperation. On the horizon, Commander Reed received the official surrender from Admiral Tosh. "The Vossen Provisional Government accepts your terms," Tosh said formally. "We request only that our people be treated with dignity." Reed nodded. "The Coalition doesn't seek revenge, Admiral. Only justice and peace." As the surrender ceremony concluded, Reed looked out at the stars. The human warning had done what their weapons alone could not. It had broken the psychological foundation of Imperial power. Across the galaxy, species that had lived under Imperial rule for centuries looked toward Earth with a mix of gratitude and fear. The humans had accomplished in 1 year what rebellions had failed to achieve for millennia. And they had done it not through cruelty, but through a simple, terrifying warning: surrender or run. The Grand Assembly Hall on neutral Mikari Prime buzzed with activity. Representatives from over 200 worlds gathered for the historic signing of the Galactic Union Charter. At the center table sat the Coalition leadership: Commander Reed of Earth, Governor Nex of Trellis, Elder Zim of Mikari, and Minister Jax representing the reformed Vossen government. Reed surveyed the diverse gathering with quiet satisfaction. Species that had been mortal enemies now sat side by side, united by their shared experience of liberation from Imperial rule. "Are you ready, Commander?" asked Colonel Morgan, now his chief of staff. Reed nodded, straightening his formal uniform. "As ready as anyone can be when rewriting galactic history." He approached the podium, and the hall fell silent. Billions across the galaxy watched the broadcast, anxious to hear what the human leader would demand as the victors of the war. "Today marks not the triumph of one species over another," Reed began, his voice steady and clear. "Today marks the end of empires and the birth of a union." Murmurs rippled through the crowd as Reed continued. "Earth did not fight this war to replace one ruler with another. We fought because we believe all sentient beings have the right to determine their own path among the stars." He gestured to the document before him. "The Galactic Union Charter establishes a council where all member worlds have equal voice. No species shall dominate another. No world shall exploit another's resources without fair compensation. The military power that once enforced imperial shall be transformed into a peacekeeping force drawn equally from all member worlds." Many in the audience appeared stunned. They had expected harsh reparations, human dominance, or at minimum, special status for Earth and the original coalition members. Reed addressed their surprise directly. "Some of you wonder why humans would give up the power we now hold. The answer is simple. We never wanted power over others. We wanted freedom for ourselves, and eventually for all." Minister Jax, once a high official in the Empire, was the next to speak. "As a Vossen, I must acknowledge the crimes of my people. For 2,000 years, we built our prosperity on the subjugation of others. Today, we humbly join this union, not as conquerors, but as equals seeking redemption." The signing ceremony proceeded with each representative adding their mark to the charter. When completed, Reed delivered the speech that would become known across the galaxy as the Stars Together Address. "Look around you," he told the assembly. "In this room are species that evolved on worlds of ice and fire, gas giants, and rocky planets, under red suns and blue. We speak with different voices, breathe different atmospheres, and perceive the universe through different senses. Yet we share a common future among the stars." He paused, his gaze sweeping the hall. "The Empire failed because it sought to make the galaxy uniform under one rule. The Union will succeed because it celebrates our differences while building on our common needs. Together we will explore, trade, learn, and grow in ways none of us could achieve alone." The applause that followed lasted for several minutes. In the years that followed, the Galactic Union flourished. Trade routes expanded, scientific knowledge accelerated through cooperation, and former imperial worlds rebuilt their unique cultural identities. On dozens of worlds, military academies included a mandatory course on the human imperial war. Cadets studied the tactical brilliance of human commanders, but more importantly, they studied what became known as the human morning, the most important strategic lesson in galactic history. An instructor at the Vossen Military Academy explained it to his students. "The humans could have destroyed us. They had the tactical advantage, the momentum, and our defenses were broken. Instead, they offered peace on generous terms." A student raised her hand. "Professor, why do all tactical manuals now include the warning? In conflict, never face the humans first." The professor, a veteran of Centauri Edge, looked serious. "Because humans are the most dangerous species we have encountered, not for their technology or physical strength, but for their adaptability and determination. Yet they are also the most merciful to those who treat them with respect." As the galaxy entered a new era of cooperation, Earth took its place as one world among many in the Union. But throughout the stars, the story was told of how humans had shattered an empire, and then, instead of ruling, had built something better for all.